What is up, guys, and welcome back. It's Jordan, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. Normally I've been covering movie content, but in today's video I'm going to be covering video games. And in addition to that, I am going to be covering 3 different video game stories that are both kind of small in their own sense, and just talking about them for a brief amount of time. And that's kind of going to be the gist of this video. And let me know what you guys think about this kind of format. So the first thing is that the Australian government has, for lack of a better term, banned Outlast 2 from being released. Their classification board has deemed Outlast to unclassified. Spoiler alert, there is a scene in the game that basically gives an innuendo of being molested or being raped, and the scene basically, just for a quick gist, again, spoiler alert here, there is a scene where you're in a room of a bunch of gray figures, and your wife, your character's wife, is like pinned down, and a woman who is also like this gray figure person comes up and basically has her own way with you. Or at least it's implied so. And in addition to everything else going on within the universe of Outlast, that's put in Outlast 2, which has seemed to be extremely nightmare-inducing. It's kind of set the Australian classification board over, and they have decided that it will not be classified. So, sorry Australia, but it looks like you guys won't be getting Outlast 2 yet. The second thing, should I say, there's 3 things that I'm going to be covering. The second thing that I'm going to be covering is some Dead Rising 4 DLC. We are finally getting the overtime mode for Dead Rising 4, and it's going to be called, well, we've known that it's going to be called Frank Rising, but we've gotten the official description and price. So it is part of the season pass, but you can get it for $9.99, and basically here's the official description for it. It states, Frank is infected and wanders the city, beaten, bloody, and driven only by a need to feast. When a former ally discovers him, he is written off as incurable. Luckily, he'll find help from an unlikely resource. As Frank begins to recover, he'll need to race to find a permanent cure while developing all new abilities and strength. Unfortunately, he can no longer eat food to stay alive and must feast on others to survive. As he is trying to save himself, Frank learns that several survivors he cares about are trapped in the city with him, and he must rescue them and himself before the government closes his case file for good and wipes the city off the map. So, along with that, there's a picture of a zombified Frank West. So, what does all this mean? So, there's a couple of takeaways from this. First off, Frank is going to be part zombies. That could imply that since he's technically a fresh infected, he could have a, better sprint or whatever. In addition to that, instead of having to eat food, Frank is going to have to eat people. At least that's what's implied. So it might be a moral kind of thing where it's like, well, do you want to eat these survivors or do you want to save them kind of deal. It also says that he has new abilities and strengths, again going back to the fact that he's a fresh infected, so that could be implied. It doesn't say anything about any newer combo weapons, but that's always expected with the DLC. And it looks like Frank is going to have to once again find another cure for this new zombie infection, because it's different than the one from the original 3 games. So that's that. My opinion on that is kind of middle ground, because I enjoyed Dead Rising 4 for what it was. I'm not a fan of like the holiday scenery. I wish that was like a seasonal kind of thing for the game, and that it kind of transitioned out of the winter theme and back into like a normal theme. That way I wouldn't have like Christmas throwbacks in the middle of summer if I decided to play the game. I also didn't care much for the controls of Dead Rising 4 compared to the other ones. It just seemed really sticky and clunky, and it didn't all chain together very well, and I found myself just getting stuck on things and weird stuff happening. And then I am not a big fan of this whole, you have 3 games beforehand and they've all had overtime mode built into the game, and this game decides to do it as DLC, and that kind of fuels this whole thing that has been going on lately with unreleased content and stuff, and content withheld from video games, and I'm really not a huge supporter of that at all. So that's kind of my take on it. I probably won't buy it. I'll probably just look at a video or something about it and see what happens to Frank, unless it has something that's totally game-changing. But once again, Dead Rising 4 is a fun Christmas game, but it's not worth $60 in my eyes. I only spent $30 on it when I got the 4th game anyways. So that's my take on it, and I'm just going to leave that there. Final news story is that as of tonight, Mass Effect Andromeda has released, and I've heard mixed reviews about it. Again, it might be one of those games that I'll have to wait on, or might use an EA Access trial on if I can. And there's been a lot of mixed reviews about it. A lot of the big complaints that I've seen are about the gameplay and the cutscenes. I've seen videos and stuff of like the character walking in this really like wonky way, and it looks really goofy, and their like body is shrinking in, and then like almost like an accordion. And then I've also heard that the like conversations between characters is done really bad, and the facial expressions and stuff are kind of like stupid or creepy. And then I've also heard, as far as the story goes, that the plot is kind of like being told through like, I guess, backstories. Again, these are just kind of like early access reviews and stuff that I've just kind of caught glimpses of, but they've said that like the actual conversations that are going on between characters and stuff are where you get the story, and you're just kind of a shell of a character going around and completing tasks for these events going on, and you're just kind of a piece of a puzzle, and there's not actually anything physically going on, if that makes sense. And you're just kind of like hearing about it. It's kind of weird the way that it's described, but I bet it's even weirder to experience. So anyways, with all that being said, guys, that is my gaming news for this week. I might make this a weekly thing. I'm not 100% sure. I guess it depends on movie content that is released in certain weeks. I know a couple weeks ago there was just a purge of movie content on movie content on movie content. There were King Kong trailers, and then there were like 2 Alien trailers, and then there was a Predator picture, and then an Alien picture, and then another Alien trailer, and then, oh goodness, and I think there was another Predator picture after that. It was crazy. I mean, the directors were just going balls to the wall. But yeah, as long as nothing gets in the way, I'll try to keep this coverage of video games up. I do want to cover video games more. It's just so hard to find something right now that I really enjoy, because the main game that I'm looking forward to is Halo. And I'll try to cover Destiny 2 if it piques my interest. I might cover some of the new Call of Duty for this year, as long as it goes back in time and doesn't go forward any more in time. I'm tired of this space combat. But that's a video for another day, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your opinions on these games are. And as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. I also forgot to mention while doing my initial recording that I'm really excited for Prey to come out, so I'm going to be doing coverage of Prey 2. Anyways, guys, for real this time, I'll be seeing ya. Bye-bye.